Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well and still keeping safe. So today's session is about eating disorders. It also falls under chapter 15 of SLK 110. I hope you guys will learn something from this session and you will also enjoy. So, just a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about today. I am going to talk about eating disorders. So, under eating disorders, we have three types. We have anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. I am also going to talk about the etiology of eating disorders. And I hope you guys will, after this session, you will be able to differentiate amongst the eating disorders based on their characteristics and etc. So, eating disorders are illnesses that are characterized by irregular eating habits and severe distress or concern about body weight or image. So, it can actually interfere with one's daily functioning. So, people with eating disorders have severe disturbances in eating behavior that is characterized by preoccupation with weight and unhealthy efforts to control their weight, of which I'm going on the next slides. When I proceed with the presentation, you will actually see what I mean by the unhealthy efforts to control the weight. Okay, so the first type is anorexia nervosa. So anorexia is characterized by an abnormal low body weight. So people diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, they weigh below average. They have intense fear of gaining weight. So to them, the aim is not to gain weight, but to lose as much weight as they can lose. So they have distorted perception of weight. They have disturbed body image. So when they look at themselves in the mirror, when they see their reflection, they actually see a fat person, even if they are fading away. To them, they don't see that. They don't see that they have lost much weight. To them, they don't see that they are fading away, but they still see a fat person with all the weight that they want to lose. So they keep on losing and losing more weight, and also they refuse to maintain normal weight because to them normal weight means that you are fat. So they use dangerous measures, of which you guys will see as I proceed with the presentation. So there's two subtypes of anorexia nervosa. The first one is the restricting type, whereby people drastically reduce food intake. So this is starving themselves. They will go days without food. So um, to them, that is one of the methods that they can use to lose the weight that they want to lose. The second subtype is binge eating or purging type. So with binge eating, they attempt to lose weight by forcing themselves to vomit after meals. So I'm sure some of you guys have seen that on music videos or on movies, whereby people vomit after eating, or they would vomit even on an empty stomach. So people diagnosed with anorexia, they who are using the second type, they would force themselves to lose weight by vomiting. So sometimes they would use laxatives and or engage in excessive exercise as an effort to lose weight. So people with both types suffer from disturbed image, as I've explained. When they see their reflection in the mirror, they see a fat person. They believe that they are too fat. They feel and see that they are fat, even if they are fading away. They have a morbid fear of obesity. They are never satisfied with their weight. So even if they lost all the weight that they wanted to lose, to them it doesn't mean anything. They want to lose more because now they have a fear of getting fat. They have a fear of obesity. They panic when they gain weight because to them it means a lot to have control over their weight. So when they gain weight, they feel out of control. They feel that they have lost control over their weight. So they try by all means to make sure that they don't gain any weight. Also, they don't recognize the maladaptive over controlling quality of their behavior. To them, it's normal. To them, it's a normal behavior. It's something that they were supposed to do in order to lose weight and look good. So anorexia nervosa, sorry, before that, I just want to say that they really seek treatment on their own, unless if a family member or parent or anyone else interferes. That's when they actually get treatment. So anorexia nervosa leads to a cascade of medical problems. This is because they now having insufficient energy in their body because of lack of food intake. They're not eating enough. They're not eating regularly as they were supposed to do. So of course there are consequences for not eating regularly, or for vomiting after meals, or using all those dangerous measures to lose weight. So the first one is amenorrhea, of which is the loss of menstrual cycle for women. This is because now when you starve yourself, you actually depriving your body energy. So people with anorexia nervosa have insufficient energy that leads to a loss of menstrual cycle. The second one is gastrointestinal problem, blood pressure, metabolic disturbances, and etc. So the second type of eating disorders is the bulimia nervosa. So with bulimia nervosa is engaging in out of control overeating that is followed by unhealthy compensatory efforts. So with bulimia, it's like having a large meal, so many food, so many food in a short period of time. It's binge eating. So after that, after binge eating, people start feeling guilty and concerned about their weight. Then they start engaging in unhealthy compensatory efforts to undo all the effects of overeating. So this includes vomiting, fasting, the use of laxatives, and also excessive exercise, because now they're trying to undo all the consequences of overeating. They are trying to not feel guilty, because after binge eating they start feeling guilty. So they usually maintain a reasonably normal weight compared to people diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. This is because with vomiting, it doesn't take out all the food that one has ate, and also with laxatives, it doesn't do much on someone's body after overeating. So they usually maintain a normal weight. So with bulimia nervosa, the medical problems that are associated with it, it's the cardiac arrhythmias, the dental problems, the metabolic deficiencies, and the gastrointestinal problem. And the psychological disturbances found in people diagnosed with bulimia nervosa is depression, anxiety disorders, substance related disorders. So some people binge eat to actually cope with anxiety, or to cope with depression or substance related disorders. So the similarities between bulimia and anorexia is that they all have a fear of becoming obese. They have preoccupation with food. They are rigid and maladaptive approaches to controlling the weight. So those are the similarities. They have morbid fear of becoming obese. They don't want to get fat. So, however, the difference is that bulimia is much less life-threatening. And also people with bulimia are likely to recognize that their eating behavior is pathological, when compared to people with anorexia. As I've said, that people diagnosed with anorexia, they see the behavior as normal. To them, it's a normal behavior, so they don't seek treatment on their own. However, people with bulimia are likely to seek treatment on their own, and they're also likely to cooperate with treatment. So now you know the difference, that they all have a fear of becoming obese. However, with bulimia, it includes binge eating, eating a lot of food in a short period of time. And with anorexia, it's not eating. There's starvation or purging after meals. So the last one is binge eating disorders. So there are people who don't fit in neatly into anorexia and bulimia nervosa categories according to the DSM-5. So it does have, binge eating disorder has some similarities with bulimia. It involves binge eating that causes distress. However, they don't use compensatory efforts to undo the overeating. They don't use purging or fasting or excessive exercise. So to them, so with binge eating, it only involves binge eating. So they don't do any compensatory efforts, or they don't use any dangerous measures to lose weight. So people diagnosed with binge eating disorder are often overweight. They may feel their habit of overeating is disgusting, and they may feel that their bodies are disgusting as well. I think some of us do know the channel. I won't mention its name, but the channel where there are people who have binge eating disorder. So they binge eat, but they don't do any compensatory efforts. So binge eating may be caused by stress. So some people binge eat when they are stressed. So now I'm going to talk about the etiology of eating disorder. Okay, so the genetic vulnerability, with this, there is no enough evidence to support the fact that genetic vulnerability causes eating disorders. However, there are twin studies. Twin studies suggest that a genetic predisposition may be at work. There is a video on YouTube about twins who suffered from anorexia nervosa, so you guys can check that out. Also, people with eating disorders can inherit a genetic vulnerability to eating disorders. However, still there's no enough evidence to support this statement. But a study found that relatives of people with eating disorders have elevated rates of anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. So the second causes are the personality factors. So with anorexia, people diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, they tend to be obsessive, rigid, emotionally restrained, and also perfectionism. They follow perfectionism. That's why I said on the previous slides, when, if you guys can remember, that they want to feel in control. So by that, if they gain weight, they feel like they have lost control, so they try by all means to control their weight and lose weight as much as they can according to themselves. So this with bulimia nervosa, they tend to be impulsive, they binge eat, as I've said. They are overly sensitive, and they have low self-esteem. So with the cultural values, so now I'm going to talk about the cultural values. So with the cultural values is that the Western society has socialized young women to believe that they must be attractive. And to be attractive, they should be thin and look like models, fashion models, and actresses. So their goal should be to look like fashion models or actresses or musicians or whatever. So the societal ideals have promoted that through the global media. So media has promoted the fact that thin is attractive and people should be thin. So most young women have become dissatisfied with their weight, because when they look at their weight, compared to the fashion models and actresses, they see themselves as fat. They see themselves as not meeting the standard that is set by the media. So that is when eating disorders are developed. So eating disorders are an act as an expression of the conflict involved in forming one's identity. So most women desire a thinner body. So a restrictive eating practices, it's also a cultural bound syndrome of Western industrialized countries. So this is not only adopted in the Western society, also South African women are subscribing to Western culture, where they desire to be thin. They desire to be thin because the media said thin is attractive. So they want to reach that standard. So that is when eating disorders are developed. So the role of family as a cause of eating disorders. So family dynamics can contribute to the development of eating disorders in young women. So some families are dysfunctional. So some people with eating disorders may feel neglected by their family. So they may find happiness in eating. So that's when they have bulimia nervosa or binge eating disorder. Or some people may feel that their family are bullying them about their weight, then they start starving themselves, and then they get to be diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. So there are mothers who are endorsing the society's message of thin is beautiful. So you can never be thin. You can never be thin. So this is when they are telling their children that you can never be thin. So that means you must lose more and more and more weight. So they model unhealthy dieting behaviors of their own, and the daughters start believing that the thinner you are, the more attractive you are. So the cognitive factors. So people with eating disorders have disturbed thinking. So as I've said that, okay, people diagnosed with anorexia, when they look at their reflection in the mirror, they see a fat person, even if they're fading away. To them, they see a fat person. So that means their thinking is disturbed, because now they believe that they are fat even though they're not fat. So individuals with eating disorders display rigid or non-thinking, or they think in extremes, and many maladaptive beliefs. I must be thin to be accepted. If I'm not in complete control, I will lose control. So I must be in control. If I gain 1 kilogram, I'll go on to gain enormous weight. So I must make sure that I do not gain weight and I lose as much as I can. So it's all in the thinking. So yes, thank you guys. I hope you learned something, and if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to send an email and ask me. Thank you.